I wanted to talk a little bit about emergency preparedness and preparing for the bad day that a line haul contractor could have. There are a lot of things that you need to have in place and help your drivers understand on what to do. And we always think of really big accidents and what are we going to do to have everything in place to make sure that everything's handled properly. It's also being prepared for all the little accidents because you can back into a pole. The driver could back into another trailer. They could back into a fence. They could go over a curb and cause a rut in the grass at the terminal. All of those are considered accidents in the line haul space. And those are the ones that are missed the most regardless of the severity of the accident, that there should be reporting and response procedures. So in preparing for that, you should have, let's start with the basic, is you have a tractor binder in the truck. And what I always say is go to an office supply store, get the notebook with the little sleeve in the front, put your information in that front sleeve on who to call. Got to do that. Then you gotta train your drivers that regardless of what I just said a minute ago, regardless of how minor that you think that accident is, to call. Call the management, call the BC, call the AO, call somebody and say, "Look, I backed into a pole," or "I had an accident," or "I ran off the road." Regardless of the severity, you have to report it. And then having procedures in place beforehand to get ready for what is going to happen. In our world, you've got to collect certain information and making sure that you meet certain thresholds on information on if there is a claim involved. So you got to make sure that you get a statement from your driver and have an accident report ready and have witness cards and statements. A lot of people don't think about this is when there is an accident involving other vehicles is witnesses are the tow truck company, law enforcement, the fire department that responded, the emergency medical crew that responded, the person that is in the other car, other witnesses around. There's all this information, and so you gotta train your drivers beforehand to really think about, "Okay, this is what is gonna happen." I get a lot of questions, and this is asked of me a lot about preparing for what do I tell the drivers on what to do after an accident? And I come from an insurance world, the number one thing is don't admit liability. And I'll get some people to go, that's like you're hiding stuff and all that. The way I was taught is the only people that can determine liability is a jury, really, because that's the person who's making the final outcome. I can have my opinion on what happened in the accident. The driver can have their opinion in the accident. The owner can have their opinion, everybody has an opinion, but at the end of the day, the people that are gonna make a final determination in a litigated case is a jury. Those are the only ones that can really come up with, was the driver really at fault for this? So, having those procedures saying, "Okay, don't admit liability." It's okay to say that "Sorry, this is gonna happen," but making sure your drivers understand that upfront. I can't stress enough on the better camera. We get this a lot where cameras are not working, cameras are covered up. The driver has the visor over the camera's dangling from the windshield, it's not mounted correctly. There is a host of things that go on that can be real problem leading up to an accident. And you may not think about it, oh, I got to get that camera repaired or whatever. But then everything comes into play. You don't really know what's happening from the accident because the camera wasn't working or it was covered up. And it can be used against you. Oh, I see you had a dash camera on the windshield. Where's the video footage of that? It wasn't working at the time, or the camera didn't have an SD card in there or something. In the legal world, that's called spoliation of evidence. So telling your drivers beforehand every day that the camera is there to protect them. I know they get upset about, oh, it's spying on me, Big Brother's watching me. But at the end of the day, I don't care how bad the accident is or how much the driver may be at fault of the accident. I want to know from the camera because even if it goes to the claim office and it's, oh, yeah, it looks like the driver caused the accident or whatever, at least you can get in there, be proactive, try to settle the case, do the right things to resolve the case versus a situation where the camera's not working. The driver's been saying that, oh, it wasn't at fault. This is what was going on. And then they're in a deposition 2 years later. And then when attorney's asking the questions, oh, I'm under oath, I'm doing my deposition. And then all of a sudden, the driver goes, that's not the way it happened. It happened this way." So not only did the person who was involved in the accident from the other side not taken care of quickly, we also spent all this legal cost, all this litigation cost because we didn't really know what was going on. So I always tell drivers, regardless of how bad the day is, make sure that you have that camera working and not covered up. Same with the other safety technology, making sure your drivers don't disengage the FCAM, the forward collision automated mitigation system, making sure they're wearing their seat belt, they're keep their cell phones out of their hand. You've got to think about prior to an accident, everything that needs to be right in the picture. So had a really bad accident, a line haul accident last month, and camera was working. Driver was changing lanes and legally, not a problem, wearing their seatbelt, driving the speed limit, and all that. So that's where the camera really helped protect us. Now, is there going to be litigation? Yes, it was a bad accident. More than likely, there'll be litigation. But we've got positive things in that picture. We weren't speeding, drivers wearing their seatbelt, drivers not on their phone, and doing a lot of the right things. Make sure you have those policies when you're thinking about preparing for accidents and doing things like that. Okay, don't cover your camera. Make sure we don't admit liability. Make sure we have the accident forms in our tractor binder so they can fill them out. And then thinking about what are we going to do after an accident? And is there a way to, how do I deal with FedEx? How do I deal with the line haul manager? Who do I call? Do I need to get a lawyer involved or something like that? And thinking about the training when I'm talking about training, and let's say you're a new contractor with the written policies and make sure that you have the procedure in place. So you would say, if you are involved in an accident of any type, please call this number. And then, okay, got that. Don't admit liability. Make sure that we have the accident forms and all that. So you start with just doing the policies there. Where I find that especially new contractors struggle is an onboarding process. So we have, required training that is through several different vendors in the space. And it's more of generic training that's more on defensive driving and stuff like that. It's really not training in the beginning about what to do in preparing for an accident. So making sure that you do what I call one-on-one onboarding training. You're in the tractor, you're going over the ELD, you're going over where the emergency equipment is. You go through the tractor notebook. Oh, here's our accident packet. Here's the number you call, and here's what to do. Because after an accident, the driver is shook up. They don't know what to do or anything like that. So having the written policy, having the right forms and the right information in the tractor notebook and binder, and then doing actual onboarding training one-on-one with the driver. Have some mock talks with them. Like I tell people to have mock DOT. I'm the BC, stand at the door. You're just been in an accident. What do you do? Oh, I grab the tractor notebook. I get this, I get that. And then you can try to see on whatever training vendor that you're using or create your own on ongoing training. I think that's another big mistake with line haul contractors is we do our onboarding with the driver, then we go to the required monthly training that is required by FedEx, and then we don't really do anything again. So having maybe quarterly or twice a year. Hey, let's go back over the accident procedures. And it's always a good thing to do after an accident. So an accident happens, even a driver backs into a pole. Hey, I just want to, hey, this happened. I just want to let you know that this happened and to go through everything with all of your drivers to know, say, hey, got to do this, got to do this. Or we missed something. Hey, the driver didn't know who to call or where the accident packet was. Okay, we got to shore that up. So these are just a lot some of the helpful tips on preparing up to an accident. I hope this helps you.